People keep asking the same question over and over again, and it sounds simple on the surface, but the truth behind it is anything but simple. What if the price you see on your screen right now isn't the real story at all? What if what you're calling price is just the visible surface of something much deeper, much more controlled, and much more complex than most people are willing to admit? Before you scroll away, before you assume this is just another dramatic crypto video, stay with me for a moment, because this conversation isn't about hype, it isn't about promises, and it definitely isn't about telling you what will happen tomorrow. It's about understanding how markets actually work when emotion is removed and structure is revealed. XRP has always lived in a strange space between belief and skepticism. Some people see it as misunderstood, others see it as overhyped, and many don't know what to think at all. That confusion didn't happen by accident. Confusion is often a byproduct of complexity, especially when an asset sits at the intersection of finance, regulation, technology, and global infrastructure. Most market participants are trained, intentionally or not, to think in very short time frames. You open an app, you see a price, you see green or red, and your brain immediately tries to assign meaning to it. Up means good, down means bad. But markets don't speak in emotions, they speak in incentives, liquidity, and positioning. The idea of a true price is one of the most misunderstood concepts in modern markets. People assume price is a reflection of value. In reality, price is often a reflection of urgency. Who needs to buy, who needs to sell, and who is willing to wait. That difference alone changes everything. XRP's price history has been shaped by forces that most retail investors never directly see. Regulatory uncertainty, legal interpretation, institutional caution, and global payment experimentation all happen outside the candle chart, yet those forces influence price far more than daily sentiment ever could. When people say price shock, what they usually mean is surprise. Surprise happens when expectations collide with reality, and expectations are often built on incomplete information. That's not an insult. It's just how information flows in complex systems. The truth is, markets rarely shock those who understand structure. They shock those who rely on narratives. Narratives are easy to digest, easy to share, and easy to believe. Structure requires patience, attention, and the willingness to sit with uncertainty. XRP has survived years of scrutiny not because of luck, but because its purpose exists independently of price. Cross-border payments don't disappear because charts go sideways. Financial inefficiencies don't vanish because sentiment cools down. The problems XRP was designed to address still exist today. That's why discussions about XRP tend to resurface again and again. Not because the story changes every week, but because the environment around it evolves. Regulation matures, technology improves, institutions adapt, and slowly the conversation shifts. One of the biggest mistakes people make is assuming that markets reward correctness immediately. They don't. Markets reward alignment. You can be right too early and still feel wrong for a long time. That psychological pressure is where most people exit before outcomes materialize. This is where the illusion of manipulation often comes in. When price doesn't behave the way people expect, they assume someone is pulling strings. In reality, price is often moving exactly as the system is designed to move, toward liquidity, away from imbalance, and in response to positioning. Liquidity is the quiet driver of most price action. Large entities don't chase price. They wait for conditions. They need depth, stability, and predictable execution. XRP's liquidity profile is one reason it remains relevant in institutional conversations, regardless of daily volatility. Another uncomfortable truth is that price discovery in modern markets is fragmented. Different venues, different jurisdictions, different participants, all interacting at once. What you see is an aggregation, not a single objective truth. That fragmentation creates opportunity for those who understand it and frustration for those who don't. It's not about being smarter, it's about having the right lens. From an American market perspective, regulation plays an outsized role. Institutions cannot act on speculation alone. They require clarity, compliance, and legal confidence. XRP's public journey through regulatory scrutiny has forced that conversation into the open. That process takes time, and time feels expensive when you're watching charts every day. But financial infrastructure doesn't operate on social media timelines. It operates on risk assessments and long-term planning. This is why the concept of a sudden reveal should be treated carefully. Nothing meaningful in finance appears out of nowhere. What feels sudden is often the visible moment of a process that started years earlier. If you're still here, take a second to like the video and subscribe. Not because this channel promises answers, but because it focuses on asking better questions. That support helps keep these conversations grounded and policy safe. The idea of a true price becomes clearer when you stop asking what something should be worth and start asking what conditions would need to change for perception to shift. Perception drives participation. Participation drives liquidity. Liquidity drives price. XRP sits in a position where perception has been shaped by uncertainty more than capability. As uncertainty fades, perception adjusts. That adjustment doesn't happen evenly or predictably. Markets move in phases. Accumulation, expansion, distribution, contraction. Most people only pay attention during expansion. By then, the story feels obvious. The risk feels hidden, and the cycle repeats. Understanding this doesn't make you immune to emotion, but it gives you distance from it. Distance creates better decisions. Whatever happens next, whether price moves dramatically or barely at all, the system continues operating. Payments settle, technology runs, infrastructure evolves. Price is a signal, not a verdict, and the closer you look, the more you realize that what most people call a shock is often just delayed recognition. Delayed recognition is something markets are famous for, and it's also the reason why so many people feel like they missed it even when they were watching the entire time. Recognition doesn't arrive evenly, it arrives in waves, and those waves don't ask for permission before they hit. What most people experience as a sudden realization is often the result of slow, quiet shifts happening far away from price charts and social media feeds. When people talk about a true price, they often imagine a hidden number waiting to be unlocked, as if one announcement or one event will suddenly flip a switch. But markets don't work like locked doors, they work like pressure systems. Pressure builds gradually, invisibly, until conditions change enough for movement to occur. And when it does, it feels abrupt only because most people weren't watching the pressure build. XRP's position in this system is unusual because it has been forced to operate under a microscope. Every decision, every partnership, every regulatory development has been analyzed, criticized, and debated in public. That level of visibility slows perception but strengthens structure. Weak ideas don't survive that kind of exposure for long. This is where patience separates curiosity from conviction. Curiosity watches price. Conviction watches progress. Conviction doesn't mean blind belief. It means understanding what you're observing and why it matters. In American markets especially, narratives carry enormous weight. Stories shape sentiment. Sentiment shapes participation, and participation shapes liquidity. XRP's narrative has been fragmented for years, pulled in different directions by speculation, regulation, and misunderstanding. Fragmented narratives create hesitation. Hesitation suppresses participation. Suppressed participation keeps price muted. That doesn't mean value disappears. It means value remains under-recognized. Markets don't reward value immediately. They reward alignment between value and perception. When that alignment starts to form, price often moves faster than people expect because positioning is thin and attention is late. This is where the idea of a shock comes from. Not because something magical happened overnight, but because perception lagged reality. Another critical piece people underestimate is trust. Financial systems run on trust, not excitement. Trust is built through consistency, reliability, and survival under pressure. XRP's continued operation through years of uncertainty has quietly built a track record that can't be faked. Trust doesn't trend on social media. It doesn't create viral clips, but it does influence decisions made behind closed doors, where timelines are measured in quarters and years.